The New York Times building is the 52-story home to one of the largest and most successful newspapers in the world. At 1,048 feet tall, it sits in Manhattan as the fourth tallest building in New York City. It was commissioned in 2001 and designed by Renzo Piano Design Workshop in collaboration with FX Fowle Architects and Thornton Tomasetti, the structural engineers. Situated just east of the Hell's Kitchen area and west of Midtown Manhattan, the New York Times building towers over its surroundings. The first floor is open in public, with the courtyard in the center that reflects the presence and relationship of Central Park to Manhattan. As the floors go up, a screen of carefully patterned ceramic rods follow the open concept floors along the facade. 52 stories later, the rods dissipate at the top, with the tower culminating in a 300-foot steel needle that tapers into the sky. The building has served as the New York Times headquarters since 2007. So what makes this project so successful architecturally, structurally, financially, and in relation to the urban fabric?
We wanted a building that was a positive addition to the skyline. The primary reason that we picked a design architect, and Renzo Piano in particular, was because we needed those skills in order to accomplish our goals. If this building was going to reflect the values of the company and was going to enhance the way we work, and Renzo accomplished that in a magnificent fashion.
The building is located on 8th Avenue between 40th and 41st Street at the border of Hell's Kitchen and Midtown. Midtown is known as the commercial and entertainment district of the city, including urban icons such as Times Square, Union Square, the Flatiron, and numerous famous theaters. Hell's Kitchen is the area that lies west of Midtown, up to the island's edge, and has been integrally linked with shipping and transportation. It also provides service to support Midtown's entertainment and commercial bias by providing infrastructure, residences, and industry. Transportation is a major driving force, with the Lincoln Tunnel to New Jersey, the ACE subway line along 8th Avenue, the Hudson River ports, and the Port Authority Terminal, which is right across the street from the New York Times building. In the past, Hell's Kitchen's demographic was predominantly low-income factory and dock workers, and developed into a slum. The city's strategy for Hell's Kitchen's future is to increase the density and diversity of the area, providing more open public space, and to extend Midtown to the west. In the past decade, commercial and residential towers have sprung up, greatly increasing the population of the area. As one of the last neighborhoods to resist high-rise developments with buildings no more than 6 stories, many zoning amendments have been made which have lifted these restrictions. The recent residential towers erected in Hell's Kitchen are now some of the most expensive real estate in all of Manhattan, reaching upwards of $3,500 per square foot.
This building actually flies above ground. It's fighting gravity. It doesn't touch ground. Of course it does touch the ground, but it doesn't take the space away from the street. You can see. You stand here and you see everything around you, and from around you everybody can see you here. It's a building that creates a sense of security by transparency and not by opacity, by giving and not by taking.
The building's podium is the main mechanism which achieves this openness and accessibility through the mediation of the tower and the public life of the street. Sitting lightly on ground, the structure is streamlined into minimal points of contact. At grade, the building is entirely open to the public and becomes part of the streetscape. There are access routes connecting all 3 adjacent streets, providing shelter and shortcuts which break up the city block into a permeable indoor space that encourages the flow of pedestrians, employees, light, and air. For the tower, the layered building envelope acts as an environmental filter. At grade, it functions as a social mediator, allowing for the public and city to flow through one another, dissolving the separation between public and private. The ground floor program is accessible 24/7 and is occupied by retail spaces, restaurants, and a high-end supermarket which make up the perimeter. The interior courtyard creates a pristine plot of green space. Further in is an auditorium which is open for the public use as well. The tower, along with the vertical circulation core, is located on the western side of the site for the lowest possibility of congestion. The service areas, including loading docks and access to the cogenerator, are located at the east end of the building, the only side without direct street frontage. A brand new building was the New York Times' chance to rebrand itself and its newspaper with a new image to maintain their reputation in the advent of the digital age. The rights to the site at 620 8th Avenue were leased to the New York Times Company and Forest City Ratner Management for $850 million over a 99-year contract. The first 28 floors are occupied by the New York Times, with the remaining floors being rented out to other smaller companies. This was a financial decision made to bring in extra revenue, as the upper floors can garner a higher price tag. On the interior, the building's office layout is a rapid departure from the conventional office tower. In line with its design philosophy, it is extremely open concept and visually transparent. With this open and versatile design, this allows the tower floors to adapt to any function and purpose, as was intended due to the spaces being rented to other occupants. The arrangement of the space is also extremely democratic, having little trace of standard corporation hierarchy. There are no corner offices, and instead the corners are occupied by circulation staircases, a space that is shared by everyone equally. Additionally, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalism, writing, editing, and research that the New York Times is known for happens between the second and fourth floors in the plinth, the newsrooms. These are the closest to the street level, allowing pedestrians to see right through the office space to reinforce the idea of truth and total transparency to the public. These floors are also physically the most sensible for the type of work that goes on in the company, as communication and information transfer operate much better on fewer, large open floors that encourage movement, rather than many vertically fragmented sections, which are naturally more restricting. The crucifix shape of the tower is caused by the corner cutaways in an otherwise rectangular block of the building. In a dense urban grid like Manhattan, where space is extremely valuable, squandering any potential square footage is close to throwing money down the drain. However, this cutaway is only an illusion. The footprint of the building is carried straight through the columns, with cantilevered bays extending on the north and south facades. Floor area is not wasted, but in fact added. This partial extension creates the look of a corner that has been carved out, opening up the solid form box of a conventional skyscraper into a shape that resembles an exploded system of layers. This intermediacy of layers is present throughout the building, blurring the line between what is inside and what is outside.
Even the space we are in this moment, this cafeteria is about a sense of lightness and belonging. You know, the building belongs to the city, and the city belongs to the building.
The most visually striking feature that one notices about the building is its intricate ceramic rod screen facade. 185,000 rods of 5-foot-long ceramic are bolted 18 inches away from the curtain glass walls on all four faces. They hang off on the side edges past the curtain wall and fly way above the building's roof into the sky. The rods are mounted in a rolling pattern of placement distance and repeats all the way up the building, giving a visual moiré effect. The only breaks in the screen occur at the eye level of the building's occupants to create an unobstructed view to the New York cityscape. The rods also serve to provide shading, preventing solar heat gain by reflecting sunlight. Visually, Piano designed the facade to give the sense of lightness and weightlessness. This new design, unlike the Times' previous masonry buildings, expresses the ideals of newspaper journalism: transparency, independence, the free flow of information, moral clarity, and the objective truth. This unique facade has also had some unintended side effects as well, as the rods essentially turned the building into a giant ladder. In 2008, Alain Robert, also known as the French Spider-Man, illegally scaled the New York Times building to protest the lack of action on climate change. With the building being the high-profile headquarters of a national news outlet, combined with its ease of climbing, its placement in one of the largest cities in the world, and its sheer size, these made it the perfectly ironic soapbox and social platform to attract media attention and notoriety. A total of 7 people have been arrested for trying to climb the building. The main component in holding the building up is a steel frame, created by 30-inch thick box columns composed of 6-inch thick steel plates welded together. From these columns branch wide-flange I-beam girders that run horizontally. A 3-inch thick metal deck is then laid across the beams to serve as a base for the poured concrete. A 2-inch tall mesh steel webbing is placed across the deck pan to reinforce the concrete in thermal expansion and compression. The concrete is then poured into the pan, resulting in a hard surface for rod supports to create a plenum beneath the floor. This is where the ventilation system, electricity wiring, and data support cables run through. On the underside of this, the I-beam girders create a drop ceiling for the floor below, where the intake ventilation as well as the lighting wiring exists. This double-spaced floor system repeats on each floor, creating a reciprocal relationship from floor to ceiling on each of the 52 stories. Each floor is monitored and controlled individually for maximum energy efficiency and the comfort of the occupants. While the internal core supports the sheer weight of the structure, the external support system on the exterior braces the building laterally. The exterior steel box columns branch off with horizontal beams connecting the building to the core. Using aesthetically pleasing knuckle braces, this is then reinforced on the exterior with X braces of 4-inch diameter pre-stressed steel rods that stretch between the columns and beams, taking the force of wind loads and vibrations causing the lateral movement. This tandem dual structure system presents a heat transfer issue as beams connect columns from the interior to the exterior. To prevent thermal bridging, the steel connections at the cross bracing are heavily insulated to maintain thermal control. On each facade of the building are radiometers, which meter the amount of sunlight hitting each facade. Depending on the strength of the light, the shades will automatically lower or retract to maintain a comfortable amount of natural light and solar gain for each floor without manual intervention. The innovation in the design and craft of the building is a testament to the successful connection between the New York Times and the streets of Hell's Kitchen and Midtown. The decisions and executions made in its siting, facade, layout, structure, and mechanical systems create open and inviting environments. A definitive landmark in the New York skyline and a feat of structural engineering, the New York Times building serves the public as well as its own employees by providing public spaces and bright open offices. Like the company it represents, the building successfully communicates its responsibility of public service and exists for the benefit of the world around it. Bibliography.